Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canyon Missing Project. This is Huck L. Berry, the senior executive producer. Oh, you're such a good, and she's such a good girl. She's a good girl. And she knows she's important. Now, when I just start walking towards this room, she runs down the hall, comes in front of me, takes her spot. She's a good girl. You like that scratchy, huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's a good girl. He's a good pup. So, gonna get right with it. First of all, please go over to Amazon, YouTube. Watch Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State. This is a Keystone movie, folks. This will help you understand what we're talking about. And you can rent it now. You don't have to buy it. And the price is low. Please go over there, watch it. And most importantly, please, please, please leave a review. We need the reviews. Really, we need them. So, thank you. Today, we're going to be talking about a cluster of missing people up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Not in Yosemite, not in Dinky Creek, but it's one of those places that I have been, honestly, more times than I can count. And it's in the general area of the Sierra Sounds location, where I spent over a week with Ron Moorhead. So this area intrigues me a lot, and it's just an epically beautiful place that I will talk to you more about. Now, with the summer here, this time of the year is about the time I go out and I start picking huckleberries. Huck will go with me. I've told you before that I've been picking huckleberries, and I look to my left, and there's a probably no more than 100 feet away, 300 pound, 400 pound black bear, not giving me two craps, just gnawing away on the huckleberries, just gobbling them down. Probably the second largest black bear I've ever seen. I saw one up in California one time, pushing 600 pounds, huge bear. And I was in a car with a sheriff, and we both stopped and watched, and he said, I think that's the biggest black bear I've ever seen. Yeah, but black bears can get big. You got to be careful, especially when you're picking berries. And remember, a lot of berry pickers have gone missing. Just saying. So let's get right into the cases here. First case involves a lady. A very nice lady, always in good shape. Somebody who enjoyed the outdoors, wasn't suffering any disability, no mental deficiency, nothing. Her name was Rosalind Saxenmeyer, 71 years old, missing July 28th, 2016, 10 years ago. Well, she had a P.O. box for a mailing address in El Granada, California, kind of near Half Moon Bay. She lived in the hills above Princeton, just north of Half Moon Bay. This is an epically beautiful area. So whenever I do a story, I do the research on the husband and the wife. Not much about her, a lot about him. Yes, his Bill, 34 years with the U.S. Postal Service in generally the Half Moon Bay area. There's a big article about him in the newspaper years ago, 25-year award from USPS. And in the article, he said that his father was a 33-year member of USPS. He said he'd retire in 1996 after 34 years. In 1995, he was transferred from Half Moon Bay to Daly City against his will by USPS. And in this article, the residents in Half Moon Bay went crazy because he was a supervisor there that they dealt with a lot. And he was very caring towards the community, and they raised a huge fuss. he had to go to Daly City. I think that probably accelerated his retirement. And then while he was doing this, unbeknownst to anybody, he was the head swim coach at Half Moon Bay High School. And he did this for a long time. In fact, he took the team to the CCS Central Coast Sectional Finals for swimming. Sent a bunch of swimmers to the finals as well individually. And then he was honored in 2010 as Swim Coach of the Year. That is huge. In December 2011, Bill said that he was out as swim coach and no reason was given. He retired. But to get 2 huge accolades from one community, he was a good man. There was never anything bad said about him by anyone. So on July 28, 2016, he and his wife Rosalind, they enjoyed going into the wilderness, camping, enjoying the outdoors. And they were camping on the south side of Alpine Lake in Alpine County, California. If you look at a U.S. map, on the eastern side of California, there's a line that comes down and hits Lake Tahoe, and then it doesn't keep going straight. It kind of goes in an angle at Lake Tahoe, and just south of Lake Tahoe is Alpine Lake. Stunningly beautiful place. It's right near a ski resort called Bear Valley that I'd skied at tons of times. The only problem with getting to Bear Valley, there's a small 2-lane highway, and during the busy season, it's a headache getting there. But in the summertime, in July, they were in the perfect camping place at the perfect time where I would go, and they were camping. It's about 20 miles north of Yosemite, 6 miles north of where several other people have disappeared that I will tell you about in a little bit. So where their campsite was, it was an easy walk from the campsite to the lake. There's just walls and walls of granite everywhere around here. That's part of the Sierras in this location. And of course, we know that granite, water, key points to the missing 411 phenomenon. Well, Rosalind was in very good health, loved to hike, and early in the afternoon told her husband that she's going to go on a hike, be back later. Said she'd be back in mid-afternoon. Well, she didn't come back. And about 2 p.m. he started to get worried, and he went to the park host and told them that, hey, my wife's not here, can you help me look for her? They got a bunch of people. They looked, searched, called her name. And it was called the Silver Valley Campground in Silver Valley. Well, the host contacted the Alpine County Sheriffs, and deputies responded very quickly, which is kind of surprising because this place is way out there. I know they have resident deputies, and that's probably what instigated them to arrive quickly. So once they got there, the deputies started searching, interviewed Bill, interviewed the camp host. Bill and his wife had been there for several days. Deputies immediately called for more deputies, and they searched that area into darkness. Near the end of the day, they called for a supervisor, and they made that supervisor make a decision about they wanted a SAR call-up the next day. So July 29th, the next day, at 7 a.m., deputies arrived, and they had already called for mutual aid. Mutual aid meaning law enforcement has a system where they can put a notification out for deputies and search and rescue from other jurisdictions. They need you to respond for an emergency. Emergency being somebody's missing. Well, they also had called the National Guard, and early that morning a National Guard helicopter arrived and started searching. They also called for a CHP helicopter with FLIR, and it was arriving. They also called for canines. 6 different canine teams arrived that day. In essence, they were getting stocked, loaded, and they were ready for anything. Well, they searched that first day. They didn't come up with anything. The next day, they had 100 ground searchers, ground pounders on the ground, on scene. One of the search teams was pretty far away that second day, 4 miles out. And they found a footprint similar to Rosalind's. Not 100% identical, but very close. One of the deputies, a guy named Stoner, stated that he thought it might be a match. It was found at a location called Rock Lake, 4 miles from the campground. Now, this area has a lot of water around it. A lot of water, a lot of granite. Elevation varies anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 feet in this area. Well, from July 31st to August 7th, 14 different agencies participated. 10 different dog teams. Rosalind is described as 5'1", 130 pounds, wearing a yellow shirt, blue shorts, and tennis shoes, and she wore glasses. They also brought in dive teams near the end of the search to search the 2 lakes. Marin, Contra Costa, El Dorado, Placer, Tuolumne, Calaveras, Bay Area Mountain Rescue, CHP, National Guard, all sent resources to this search. In total, they said that there were 250 searchers by the end of the search protocol. Because so much of the ground in this area is covered by granite, that means that there's less ground cover to hide people. That makes searching by helicopter a whole lot easier. Then when you bring canines in, 10 different canine teams, they should have picked up something. They should have been able to track. If those were her tracks by the other lake, they should have been able to pick up the scent at that point and go on it. They weren't able to. This entire case started to get more and more baffling as the days went on. After 10 days, the sheriff had a briefing and explained to everybody what they had done. The detectives had interviewed Bill, the husband, and the campground, and the people in the campground, trying to see if there was any violence, any yelling, screaming. No, nothing like that. Bill did tell the sheriff that in 2015, he and Rosalind were camping at Lassen National Park. And during one day, she got lost. She eventually found her way out at the end of the day. No big deal. I think anybody who's hiked out in the wild, off trail, has gotten lost. I probably have 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I eventually found my way out, but for a while I was lost. I don't think that's unusual. Well, several articles. This really gets me mad, folks. I've got to take a deep breath. Several articles stated that Rosalind had a medical condition and she was early stages of forgetting things. Sounds like dementia, early dementia, Alzheimer's. She had a medical condition? Well, what's that? That has to be something major to say that. A couple of days after those articles came out, Bill called a press conference and said, "That's a complete lie. My wife doesn't have any medical issues. She's not forgetful. I don't know why they're saying this, but it's not true." Local reports for local consumption. That's the storyline they want people to understand and think, well, she was just elderly, she got lost, she had dementia, that makes sense. Oh, but what if all those things aren't true? And how did she get lost? Well, they don't want you to think like that. They want you to think dementia. Typical of the news media to warp the story to fit their narrative. This happens all the time. In fact, I would say that 80% of the articles on older people say those kind of things. And the times I've gone out and interviewed family members and friends, 95% of the time they say, we never said that. We don't know why they said that. Oh, I know why they said it. But it's important that we get it out that it's not true. You see, that gives searchers the excuse that they can call off the search. And we're going to go home now, you know. Chances are she's not going to be found. She's elderly. No, she was in perfect health. There was all the water in the world out there to survive. So, could somebody survive 10 days without food? Oh, absolutely you could, as long as you had water. So, and now another interesting part to this story, which you don't see much of. The FBI has Rosalind on a missing person poster on their website. It says, "Attention missing person, cold case, crime analysis units. Rosalind Saxmeyer." That's Rosalind wearing her glasses. That's her DMV photo. Okay. And what it says on the FBI file is July 28th, Rosalind Saxmeyer, white female, 71, went for a short walk at the Silver Valley campground on the east end of Lake Alpine in Bear Valley, California. Never been seen again. Saxmeyer was wearing a yellow or blue short-sleeved shirt, blue shorts, canvas tennis shoes, wire-rimmed glasses. She might have been wearing a custom necklace with blue-green opal stone, a silver round pendant, watch, basic, not digital, and a gold wedding band. So, I find it very interesting that the FBI has her photo on that website. Just saying, I find it interesting. Now, because I've done so much work in that area where Rosalind disappeared, so first of all, her story is in Missing 411, Western U.S. When I started to write about her and the next 3 cases, I immediately keyed in on their location. So 6 to 8 miles south of where Rosalind disappeared is a place called Donnell's Vista. Donnell's Vista is an epically beautiful pullout along the side of its small 2-lane highway up in the Sierras. You pull in, you park, you get out, you walk over, and 1,400 feet down the cliff is this beautiful river that flows into a lake. I'm serious, it's gorgeous. So let's get right on to the next story. Patricia Tolhurst. Patricia. That is her. 46 years old. Missing April 22nd, 2014. This is in Tuolumne County, 15 miles east of Strawberry, California, and just about 10 miles west of the northern boundary of Yosemite. Patricia was raised in the Bay Area, like me. She moved to Sonora, which is just down the highway from Donnell's Vista. And when she was in Sonora, she opened a popular restaurant called Patty's Shack. On April 8, 2014, she sent a note to some friends that she was going to go hiking at Kennedy Meadows. Now, Kennedy Meadows is just further up the highway from Donnell's Vista. It goes Sonora, Donnell's Vista, Kennedy Meadows. Kennedy Meadows is right on the edge of Yosemite. Now, between Donnell's Vista and Kennedy Meadows is the turnoff for the Sierra Camp, where I went with Ron Moorhead. Just saying. So, a lot of UFOs and strange things up there? Oh yeah, there are. I guarantee there are, because I could say firsthand that I've done the research. So Patricia was going to go on this hike. Well, she doesn't come back. And on April 22nd, she's reported missing by family and friends. And what they do is they start to go through all the things that she said and did and follow the highway up to where she was going. And they find her car in the Donnell's Vista pullout on the way to Kennedy Meadows. It's her Toyota 4Runner, found parked unlocked, her purse inside, no keys found in the purse, sunroof was opened, and it had rained and it was wet inside the car. They looked all around, massive search. They searched the river. They searched beneath the falls. They searched for miles around the parking lot. They searched everywhere. Nothing. Nada. Nothing. So that occurred April 22nd, 2014. 6 miles south of where Rosalind disappeared on July 28th, 2016. Now, let's go backwards in time. 9 years. Exact same location. Nita Mayo, 64 years old. Nita Mayo, 64 years old, missing August 8th, 2005. Resident of Hawthorne, Nevada, licensed nurse, worked at Mount Grant General Hospital. She drove 2.5 hours on a day trip in her Mercury Sable station wagon, and at 2 p.m. she stopped at a store in Strawberry, California. So she stops in Strawberry. She walks inside, buys a few things. People would say, oh, it's kind of weird. She bought some postcards. She bought a Sasquatch refrigerator magnet. Then she turned around and drove back the way she came. And her next stop apparently was Donnell's Vista to take in the views. She had a camera in the car. Apparently, she got out of the car and took the camera with her. Later that day, almost early that night, a Caltrans worker found her car, what he called abandoned, in the parking lot. There was nobody around. Didn't think much about it. That was on August 8th. On August 10th, friends and family of Nita reported her missing in Nevada. They knew she was going to California. This is where the CHP put a bulletin out about her and put it on the nationwide computer systems. Well, a Caltrans worker heard about the disappearance and recalled seeing that car. He went down to the Donnell's Vista. Car was still there, and he called the sheriff. Thank goodness somebody was paying attention and remembered that car. Sheriff came out, and in the car they found her purse, her car keys, and her cell phone. Now people would say, oh, that's really odd. The car was locked, and why would her keys be inside? This is one of those cars that has an entry pad on the outside to get in without keys. Again, Tuolumne County comes out, does a massive search and rescue, finds nothing. They even looked, after they talked to family and friends, they knew that this camera had to have been somewhere. Never found anything of her or the camera. So it kind of appears that she got out, take some pictures with the camera. Now, on August 10th, that roadway is super busy. That parking lot is super busy. So the idea that something criminal happened in that parking lot, you drive in and you're all of a sudden on the parking lot. So somebody committing a crime there, that would be extremely risky, because you don't hear people on the highway all the time from that parking lot. But when you turn off and you drop down into that parking lot, you're there all of a sudden. Seemed like it'd be a very high-risk maneuver. Not saying it's impossible, but very high risk. Now, the next case involves a man. Now, we've had 3 women. Now, a man. His name is Breck Phelps. There's Breck. 68 years old. Missing October 2nd, 2016. So remember, Rosalind disappeared 6 miles away on July 28th, 2016. A few months later, Breck disappears. He disappears just a quarter mile away from Danelle's Vista when his vehicle is parked on the side of the road. Breck was a Washington State native. He came to California to get a job, lived in the foothills of the Sierra in Twain Harte, really nice community. Kind of a gateway point to the Sierras, Dodge Ridge, etc. Dodge Ridge ski area. Well, when Beck got here to California, he took a test to be a correctional officer for the state. He got the job, went to the correctional academy, and that started a decades-long, very good career in corrections. He ended up retiring and living in Twain Harte. His church said that he was a regular churchgoer. Everyone liked him. He was very mild-mannered, calm. The one thing he really liked to do was go fishing. Sounds like a man of my heart. Well, reports vary on when he left to go fishing. It was either Saturday or Sunday before he was found on October 2nd. Friends hadn't heard from him, reported him missing on the 2nd. They knew all of his favorite fishing spots, so they all got together and started to all drive out, and they found his car parked a quarter mile south of Danelle's Vista, right near where the other women disappeared. It was Breck's 2007 red Nissan Versa. Friends tried to call his phone. It was either dead or turned off. The Tuolumne County Sheriff took over the investigation. So when I was there, I knew about these cases. And I've been back there since. And getting down to that river, it's a hike. It's not a hard hike. It's a hike. It's a place I would go fishing for sure. Why? Because it's quiet, remote, and people don't want to make that hike. And I would bet that the fishing in that river is very good. So Breck had a really good place to go. Now, everyone's guessing he went fishing, but we don't know for 100% positivity. But it being so close to where the other 2 women disappeared, you can't discount the association. Well, on Breck's case, Tuolumne County Sheriffs took over the investigation, along with Calaveras, Stanislaus, and Contra Costa County. Multiple drones, 6 dog teams, a Black Hawk helicopter with FLIR. The report said that the search and rescue was hampered by snow and rain. Now, in October, that river would have been at the lowest point all year. Why is that important? Because I've seen that river in August. It's high, but I would have fished it. It's not dangerous. But in October, it would have been low. It would have been a great time to fish it, and with no dangers involved. The sheriff's office said that they did not believe foul play. Well, it's been 10 years, and Breck's never been found, just like none of these ladies have ever been found. So I want to go through and highlight some things for you. Those 4 cases. First case, August 2005. Nita male from Nevada, 64 years old. Nurse, alone, stops at Donnell Vista on the way back from Strawberry, going back to her home in Nevada. Again, August 2005. April 2014, 9 years later. Patty Tolhurst, restaurant owner, Sonora, 46 years old. Alone, Donnell Vista. Car found with the slider opened. Canines, nothing. July 28th, 2016, Rosalind Saxenmeyer, 71 years old, retired, alone, Alpine Lake, 6 miles away. And lastly, Breck Phelps, 68 years, retired, alone, Donnell Vista. So the ages are 46, 64, 68, 71. The cluster, 64, 71, 68. It's rare to have this cluster of older women in one spot in the mountains. Very rare. Very rare. So the commonalities that you need to understand with this, number one, they're all alone. You can go ahead and laugh. Say, yeah. I tell you, don't hike alone. Saxenmeyer disappeared hiking alone. The other 2 women, traveling alone. 3 of them were absolutely right near Donnell's Vista. All were right near water. I told you that's a 1,400 foot drop right down to the river from the Vista. Saxenmeyer was right near Alpine Lake. 3 of these cases happened in 2 years, 2014 and 16. 3 women, 1 man. All 4 were from out of the area. Nobody was very local. All never found. The other thing that's you just can't ignore, granite all over these areas. And I mean it. What can you say? Well, I hope you got educated about this. If you're a single person, you carry a personal locator beacon. You tell people when you're going, when you're coming back. And you tell people the date and time you're coming back. And if you don't come back on that date and time, they call search and rescue. They don't hesitate. They call. That person has to be trustworthy. Many of the phones these days have a personal locator beacon built right into them, which is a huge benefit. Kindness. I greatly appreciate you. Please make sure you're subscribed. I've had a ton of people in the last month tell me, hey, I'm not subscribed anymore and I'm still not getting notifications. What's going on? Please make sure you're subscribed. And I appreciate your comments. I read them all. And I either give you an up, finger down, a heart, and sometimes a comment. But I read them all. And if you need to send me an email, missing411@yahoo.com. Our website, missing411.com. Books, DVDs, Blu-rays, hats, everything you need. We even have some sweatshirts. Be safe. Be kind out there. I know, and you know, mental health is a huge issue in our country. The other day, somebody told me, Dave, we're in a spiritual war. And we're being attacked at all angles by the spiritual forces out there. So, keep your head up. Don't isolate. Talk to people. And know you're loved. The most important thing, get outside, get some sun, and enjoy the outdoors. Be safe, be kind. Paulides out.